I will lose my mind. No, it's the Russian nesting doll. Vanessa's chest cavity opens up, and Garrett is in there, and then Garrett's chest cavity opens up, and the plane is in there.
And then you open that up, and there's Gregory.
Ladies, gentlemen, and those with the good sense to do away with the whole notion, I welcome you to the premier audio medium for all your Fazbear entertainment needs. The Freddy Fazbear Pizza Podcast. Note, FFPP is not responsible for any loss of appetite, disinterest, dismemberment, or other legally classified statuses. So strap in and enjoy.
Hello and welcome back to the Freddy Fazbear Pizza Podcast. I'm your host with the Toast Fried Toast with some very requested guests, actually. Why don't you go and introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Cory.
I'm Connie.
Yeah, look, y'all have emailed and commented enough. I finally wrangled dual process theory. And by wrangled, I mean I kept forgetting to ask because I'm really bad at reaching out to people.
No, I didn't know we were that check our email.
True, I don't know if I emailed you. I think it was a matter of I kept meaning
I haven't seen anything that I could have missed it.
Yeah, peek behind the curtain. I'm really bad at reaching out to people. So I've had like comments and emails about like, oh, especially like in the like month after your timeline came out of like, oh, you should get dual process on. I was like, oh, I should. That'd be a good conversation. And then I just kind of forgot. Like,
yeah, on our
so I think
side,
I saw you in like a chat and I was like, oh shit, I gotta ask. I gotta remember to ask.
On our side, I think a few times people have been like, oh, are you ever going to be on Right House podcast and stuff? And we were like, I mean, if they reach out, we're not going to reach out, though. We're too nervous to do that.
I get that so much. The amount of times, something about having like a FNAF podcast, people think I've got connections that I don't. I've had so many requests of like, hey, why haven't you gotten Markiplier on? I'm like, do you fucking think I have his phone number? I've never even looked at the guy. What do you mean?
Get Markiplier for his first movie.
For real. Like, but no, it's a big pleasure. So somehow y'all don't know, especially if you've watched the channel, somehow y'all don't know. These are the brains behind the dual process theory channel. You may know them from that real big timeline that came out this summer, and everyone had to make Golden Freddy videos because we all went, wait a minute, that's a good idea.
I'm sorry.
and or the Amy video, which I was somehow a little more interested in, but that's just because I'm a Sonic nerd, and we'll get to that.
Hell yeah.
But today we tried to figure out like what a good topic to talk about is. But before we get to the topic, I kind of wanted to talk to y'all because there's a lot of new and up-and-coming FNAF channels in the past like month, pretty much in the past like years that Security Breach came out. Because like Security Breach came out, and there's a big wave of new FNAF content creators, and then there's been more and more since then. And I feel like y'all are kind of the like big up-and-comers right now. And I wanted to get your perspective on like how long you've been trying YouTube for. Was this actually your first video or just your first one that like hit it big? Like what your content journey has been so far?
It's different for the two of us. I mean, Connie has been on Tumblr for a while, and neither of us were like, we're going to be Tumblr content creators, but that accidentally happened just because we have awesome personalities that people are attracted to. I mean, no, we're just, I don't know, we're just funny, I guess. But
with YouTube,
you gotta be. You have to be a little narcissistic to be here. That's fine. You're allowed to look.
I was fully joking. I don't know why people.
No. You would not. Your videos, your two's videos would not be doing as well as they are if people did not think you had good things that are worthwhile to listen to.
Right.
So
like, it's almost like a similar. I'm not gonna compare myself because he's the same, but it's almost very a Toby Fox thing where like he in interviews was like, I didn't think anyone would like Undertale because I didn't think people would like my sense of humor, and Undertale's like one of the funniest games to ever come out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, making anything is an act in a little bit of narcissism, in the idea of like, I have something I think is worth hearing, and that's okay.
But
but with YouTube, I mean, we've made like basically like, we've never done like a video essay before or ever put our voice to it. On occasion, on like my main, I would post like AMVs or whatever. But closest I ever got was like compilations of Sonic Boom funny moments.
Hell yeah.
But No,
my
we've never done like.
main-
Yeah.
My main started with at first it was speed draws because I was really going into doing Sonic art.
Mhm.
And then it kind of just became like when I did certain like meme video edits, they would end up on there sometimes. And then I had one bigger video, which was Voices for the Voiceless, which was me realizing a bunch of Sonic characters had never had voice casts because they were either in a comic or a game without voices or etc. And just like taking realistic, like, anime video game voice actors and casting them, quote unquote, with like 2 to 3 choices for each character. And that video took a while and people really appreciate it, and I was excited about that. But that was like that might have been like 2 years or something before we even thought about doing the theory video, which mainly happened because we had the theory a little while before that. It changed since then, but firstly it was me and Connie when I got her into FNAF because the movie was coming out, and she was like, well, it's a horror franchise and I've been a little interested, so get me into it. And we started talking theories because she was like, what is going on? Which got us interested in it, which snowballed into us having that huge theory. And there is a doc version that was posted quite a few months before the video, but we knew like that
Version on Tumblr.
Yeah, like a Tumblr doc link wasn't going to like reach as many people or interest as many people because not everyone wants to sit down and read like a 40-page doc. So since then we were like, we should probably make a video, and then it took us a while to work on it just because like we needed to figure everything out.
We hadn't ever done like a video like this before. We had to have Cory draw all the sprites. I had to learn how to use Adobe Premiere on the school laptop.
Sometimes when I'm scrolling through my Procreate, I see the beta sprites, like the first versions, like the rough draft. It's not even rough draft. It's like what I thought was going to be the versions of our sprites, and they don't look good, which is why I made new ones. And sometimes I see them and get embarrassed.
That's really funny. No, that's really interesting. That because it's always a question whenever someone like kind of kicks off a channel of. At least I'm always curious about like what led up to this point, right? Because I think it's clear in at least like the quality of the timeline itself says like this is not the first video that you two have produced in some way, at least. To me anyway, that's the vibe I got, because like there was I understand like you were learning Premiere for the first time and doing a lot of these firsts, but there was a lot of meaningful decisions that you could see being made, at least like content creator to content creator. Like I could see a lot of the thought behind these choices. So I was curious on that, because I know like myself, I had a lot of like really shittily edited, I call them Let's Plays, quote unquote, but realistically I would stream for 5 hours and then chop it into 30-minute chunks and upload them every like couple days. There's a reason they didn't kick off. And then it's funny looking at the way your channel has kind of started, and these like videos that are coming out in the order they are. Because my first video that ever actually got attention to it was a FNAF timeline in like preparation for Security Breach. And then my next video was a Sonic 2 movie prediction. So it's really funny that that's how that lined up.
You know what? Neurodivergent people are all the same.
We like FNAF, Pokemon, and Sonic, and that's all we like. Okay.
Big three. Which is, and the thing is about the theory itself is, I mean, first of all, it's laid out very well because again, a creative writing major wrote it. And I will say, like, I remember when I was doing the graphics, because I am not graduated yet. That'll be next year. I'm still in college, but I'm currently studying graphic design, and studio art as well, and also game design. I have a lot on my plate, but it's fine.
Okay.
But I remember going in and like, feeling like good, proud of myself, but my brain will never let me feel proud of myself. So it's like, what if people think you're an industry plant? Because that's what my brain was telling me, that the graphics were good.
Legit, when we made this video, I was like, now we're really proud of this video, but we have to like, think that it's probably gonna get like, 10 views, and like it'll take a while.
Scenario is that it would get 10 views. That's what we were prepped for. We were not
Yeah,
prepped
and
for
like
the
we
opposite
we
happening.
we legit like, did not expect any of this. This was did not expect any of this. This was insane, and like, just thank you to everyone who said said stuff about it. Like,
People in the comments,
when
like,
I do have the story of when we found out you watched it. We were in line at the Little Mermaid ride at
oh
Disney.
my god, yes, because right after we posted the video, the week after, we went to Disney World.
And like, because our mom was just like, hey, well, I want to do like a family vacation. We were like, okay, and
We were all
we were in
there.
line for Little Mermaid, and I was trying to watch your premiere stream, but the like Wi-Fi kept cutting in and out. But like at one point, you were like, oh yeah, we talked about dual process at the beginning of the stream. Like they made a good video, and I was like, Cory, he watched our video.
And he was like, what? And we were still at home. Oh, whoa, sorry. We were still at home when we found out about the Matt Pat reaction, which we also weren't expecting. I was in my bed in my loft. Someone sent me a Tumblr ask with just like the link and saying like, have you seen this? And I was like, okay, I don't know what this is gonna be, but you know, whatever, because you know, and I opened it and it was the Matt Pat reaction video, and I screamed.
Yeah.
I slammed the laptop, and then I made my way over to Connie's room, who from her room heard me screaming and just thought like, I don't know, something Sonic happened or whatever. And then I had already closed the tab so I could open it from my ask box again to show her what I went through.
And I was like, no.
Yeah, that was I think both of us almost felt like throwing up. We were like, oh my god.
I can't imagine how overwhelming it must have. I remember thinking to there was a very distinct thought I had about like, I think a month after your guys' timeline came out, where I was looking at your channel. I noticed that was like the first video on the channel. I was seeing the reaction to it. I'm like, I'm so happy for them, and I'm really worried for them because of how overwhelming that must feel. Right. And I'm really happy that like you guys are still continuing to make these videos and theories on like the things you want to make it on. Because I know that feeling, and especially to the scale that y'all have felt it at, I'm wishing you the best, because that can be so overwhelming. I remember like a month before my channel really took off, there was a theory I did on the like programming of Glamrock Freddy, and that was the first time game theory ever mentioned my channel. And somebody texted me and they're just like, yo, you showed up in a game theory. I was like, oh, I immediately thought was like, oh, maybe they like scrolled on a YouTube page and my thumbnail appears in the corner or something. So then I'm like walking through the kitchen, getting lunch ready with it like on my phone. And then like my name gets said and I fell down. I was like, huh? Like,
oh man. That's so
I grew up watching game theory stuff.
Oh, same.
Because I'm definitely the youngest person here. I mean, Connie's mid-20s and you have children, so I'm still like
26. So yeah, like we're
yeah. I'm definitely the youngest person here, but I grew up with it. And then eventually I kind of moved. Well, it was when I first it kind of went along with my gaming journey, because it was after I played Portal and Portal 2 for the first time ever. Because I just heard they were really good, and I hadn't really played any major video games, and I was like, I'm just gonna play them. And I did, and I was hungry for Portal content, so I went on YouTube and found his companion cube theory.
Yeah.
And that not only did it get me like gaming, and then theories about games like kind of went right after each other when it came to my interests. And then eventually I kind of moved more over to watching GT Live than like the actual theories. But I remember as a child like hoping and praying they would go live on my birthday so that I could get a birthday clap and a half. And it never happened. But turns out all you have to do is spend months and months making a FNAF theory called We Solved FNAF and have it somehow blow up, and then you get a clap and a half. So that was
then you get one.
easier.
It's a simple guide. It's step 1, make an entire timeline spending months on. Step 2, pray. Step 3, get clap and a half.
Right. Yeah.
My initial timeline, the reason I made it. Oh, sorry, I was gonna say the reason I made mine in a similar vein to, not the reason y'all made yours, but I actually submitted it to the, and I'm like a little embarrassed thinking about this. When I made it, part of the intention was, and I followed through with it, I think the post is still there, on the official Game Theory subreddit, I posted it with the title, I hope somebody at Game Theory sees this. I would like to apply as a writer. And like, who the fuck was I? But like,
Well, that's
very funny.
basically me job hunting right now.
Yeah. I mean, hey, Tom, I don't know if you're now the host now, so I don't know if you're hiring or anything, but you got some writers over here.
Yeah.
The
similar to Cory, like seeing Pat, that actually was, because I mentioned I sometimes listen to your podcast at work. I remember one day I was at work and I was like shifting like books, because I work at a library, and I was like,
he's a librarian.
the new Rye Toast podcast is up, and I opened my thing and we're in the thumbnail, and I was like, oh.
Oh no, that's my face.
That's surreal for me to hear.
Cool.
Like that's like surreal for me to hear. But no, yeah. When y'all's timeline came out, it was like one of the most requested things, and I was like, I don't want to do a main channel theory on it because I have too much to say. It needs to be a podcast. Like I don't have the time.
Oh, I feel
in a theory of it, because the big question was like, are you gonna do a theory like critique or review like you've done in the past? I was like, no. That's I have too many thoughts. It needs to be a podcast.
Yeah, it was 2 hours long, and we put it wasn't just like could we have just made a video saying like, oh, we think Cassidy is actually the crying child's name and like is the vengeful spirit, maybe, but like we had so many other minor FNAF thoughts and a timeline idea. It's like, we might as well just put the stuff together that we can, because it makes sense, and then we ended up with a 2-hour video.
Yeah, and it's a good way to start out in, like, I think it's genuinely a really good like starting step in, especially like for future FNAF content, of like, hey, here's a lot of our thoughts all at once, so you know where we're coming from, you know?
Right.
But we're supposed to be talking about movies. I'm just so interested in the back end of YouTube, so that's my fault.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll move on to the movie predictions. So I guess we'll start with FNAF 2, so we can kind of sandwich what we really want to talk about with stuff that people will click on, and that is FNAF. So on my channel anyway, because they.
Yeah, that's why our second video was a way lower stakes Amy video. Because I mean,
hey, that's called passion. That's what it is.
Yeah, that, and not only do we love Sonic, and we were into Sonic quite a few years before we got into FNAF together. I mean, I got into FNAF as a kid and then fell off and then reinvigorated it with Connie, where she was having it for the first time. And but I was sitting there like, I know people are super hyped about our FNAF thoughts, but not only do we need to get the Amy video out so we don't box ourselves in.
Yeah.
Because that was the scariest thing to me, because as much as I love FNAF,
it specifically took me
so
long.
Else.
It took me so long to edit the Amy video because I just had like horrible imposter syndrome. I was like, oh my gosh, everyone's gonna click it and be like, oh, they actually suck.
Yeah.
And like, I just didn't want to disappoint anyone. And then like I posted it and everyone was so nice, which I didn't expect. But
I'm glad with some things it can show. I'm glad it doesn't really show that we were super nervous when making the Amy video.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. I as a fellow content creator, like, because you're human, I knew you would have been, but it does not show in the video, right?
Thank you. I'm so
glad.
Yeah,
it is very. It comes from that same place of like, we are knowledgeable about this subject. Here are our thoughts on it.
Mm-hmm. I know there's it is nice to hear how many like FNAF people who came to us for FNAF are like, oh, I barely know Sonic, or oh, like I don't know anything about Sonic, but I'm gonna watch the video anyway because I like to hear y'all talk. And I'm like, aww.
Yeah. And that's the key, especially if y'all are gonna be doing a lot of topics. The key you want to follow through is less so having people necessarily interested in the subject you're talking about, but more so having that core audience that likes the way you talk about things. And that's really the audience that you're cultivating right now.
I first found out about Garden of Banban because we were like, let's just put on a Rye Toast video, and it was like your OSHA.
Not the OSHA video.
Yeah, like,
that was so good though.
I don't know what Garden of Banban is, but whatever. Like,
I need to make a second. They've made so many more Banbans, it's hard to keep up. But I do need to make more OSHA Banban videos.
There's so
it
many
disappointed me how well that performed. was like one of my best videos of that year, and I was like, motherfucker, it's Ban.
I went into Target and I see like official Ban merch on the shelves, and I'm like, we live in a society, but like it's the thing where it's like it's so obviously like cashing in on mascot horror, but it's made by like two 20-year-old guys in their basement, so like it's still like it's not like corporate. It's just like them having fun.
I think especially with the latest chapter, I've come around to like appreciating what it is and what it is doing.
As soon as I saw the like car scene in chapter 3, I was like, "Oh, I'm sold. This is amazing."
Yeah, we get the tone.
It is still weird to me again because I grew up with like YouTubers and gaming YouTubers, like because at the time they were all in like early to mid 20s, but like a lot of newer YouTubers and stuff are also early to mid 20s. So it's weird when I see a YouTuber and they mention when they were born, and I was like, "That's when my sister was born," or like, "That's right before I was born."
Right?
Like what?
It's the generation wheel turning, and also like I don't know what it is, especially in the FNAF space. Goddamn, I feel like I'm only 26 and I feel like a grandpa because some of these people are like, "Oh yeah, I'm 19." I'm like, "You're what?" Like I think I turned 21 the other month or something. I was like, "You're only 21? What do you mean?"
He's only a year older than me. That's so weird.
It was 20 or 21. I don't know. He posted it to Twitter. I don't remember.
So weird.
I saw a post on Tumblr once that was like, "Yeah, when I watched Steven Universe as a kid," and I was like, I was a teenager.
I remember when I think it was Astral Spiff mentioned he was born in 99, I think, and I turned to like my our oldest sister, and I was like, he's the same age as you. That's wild.
Astral Spiff is not. I'm older than Astral Spiff. Why did he seem so much older than me? What do you mean?
Right? For me, it's because I mean, there's an age gap between me and my other two sisters of about 4 to 5 years. Because like they moved into a bigger house before I was born, and they were like, "Well, we have room for another one." So to me, I kind of almost have two different age gaps where like if they're like around my age, I'm like they're 19 to 20, that's like that 21, like that's so weird. But also if they're like around 25, it's like they're around the same age of my sibling. That's weird.
It's that, and I think especially since FNAF is 10 years old, the amount of times, because I played FNAF 1 summer it came out when I was in, I think this would have been freshman or like sophomore year of high school, like first or second year of high school, with like a bunch of my friends who put it on the TV, and I remember that's like a core memory. And I'll have people being like, "Oh yeah, I remember when FNAF came out. I wasn't allowed to play it because I was in 3rd grade, but I was like, you're what?"
I don't think I knew about it until like the 3rd or 4th game was out, and people.
I mean, that's still like the 2nd year. Those games were cranking out.
Yeah. I remember the first time anyone ever guessed it was because we had a whole YouTube chat with that one stream we did, the 4-hour one. And someone in the chat threw it out, and I was like, "You're never gonna be able to guess what YouTuber I watched for my first playthrough of FNAF that made me like pee myself."
Okay, first playthrough, and you said like the 3rd or 4th one?
It was the first game, but it was like around when the next two were out, I think. But I think the video was at that point, but I watched it because I liked the YouTuber who played it.
Was it Jacksepticeye?
Nope. And I said, because the thing is, I say it's not a popular, like it's not a usual guess. Like you wouldn't.
Okay. That's like the only guess I could, because like all my other guesses are the popular ones, so that's
FNAF playthrough that made me so scared. I was scared of Freddy Fazbear, like being at the fridge for the next like year of my life, was the annoying orange.
That's crazy.
Of FNAF 1, and it was like probably definitely scripted or like just put to some other gameplay, but like that scared me. When Freddy jump scared, I like dropped my iPad and like screamed and like hid under the cover.
I vaguely knew it existed, and I knew the most about it when like the fan songs were all popping off, and I just like read Wikipedia summaries so that I knew what the Aviators were talking about. But I never sat down and watched all the games until like the movie trailer dropped, and I was like, that looks fun. Let's see what's going on.
She watched the movie trailer, and then she was watching like noiseless playthroughs or like commentary lists, which for most games would work, but I was like, no, you've got to experience it through someone if you're not going to play it. So I showed her all the Cory Kenshin ones.
Oh, those are classics. That's like, I think if I ever recommend a Let's Play to people, it's usually Cory Kenshin's.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think his are just really good and solid to like get
Yeah.
into it.
So whenever I try to get
just-
people into Amanda the Adventurer, I'm like, Cory
Yeah.
played it and accidentally got like all the stuff immediately.
But yeah, as I was saying, if we didn't hate each other at the time, when FNAF was coming out, she probably would have asked me. But yeah, we for most of our childhood, probably more years than we've been liked each other, we hated each other. We had the middle
We had-
kids, youngest sibling rivalry.
That's
like,
just what siblings do for a while.
oh,
yeah.
absolutely.
Well, I
You
don't.
know what
I don't- what was it? Where I think it was Encanto. I remember when it
Yeah.
first came out, before it got popular, when there were just like people
usual
talking about it for like the first 2 weeks after it came out. People were
Yeah.
like, "Man, Isabella is so awful to Mirabelle. She's so awful." And I'm like, "Oh
so
no,
awful.
that's just how me and Cory would talk."
And then they become best friends like suddenly. Like that's the most sibling
Yeah.
thing you've ever seen.
No, I think Encanto really did a good job of that, like, family dynamic and how that works.
Wait, that's such a good movie.
Oh yeah, it's one of my toddler's favorites, and like I love the movie too.
God.
But like the movies that are on rotation because of my toddler are that Coco, Princess and the Frog, and Mulan. Like those four
Yeah.
on
Oh,
rotation.
those are a good four. For
all
for
great movies.
all three of us, the one movie we could definitely love was Pooh's Heffalump movie, and I still love it to this day. One of my favorite movies.
I
of all
watched
time.
it like once as a kid. I'm gonna be so real. I don't remember.
It's
We
really
saw
good.
that in Cory. That's the first movie I remember watching in theaters.
Right.
It was in theaters, and I was like, "Oh, there's a friendly heffalump," because I
There's
was
a
like
bunch of
7.
good movies, but I think Pooh's Heffalump movie is top 2. The other one being Pooh's Great Adventure.
I
They're
don't know
both very
why.
good movies in
Thinking of
general.
the word heffalump, my brain went to I think it's a Tinkerbell movie, The Never Beast.
Yeah.
Why did they make that movie so sad? I was
don't know.
babysitting some kids and we were watching that movie and I was like sobbing by the end of it. I'm like, what
Oh,
are they?
no.
Why did they?
They
that
just
movie
went
is
off with
sad.
the Tinkerbell movies for no reason.
Yeah,
I mean,
that movie was
they're-
intense.
Tinkerbell and Peter Pan based stuff has kind of always been like that. I mean, we read the Gail Carson Levine books as kids, and like they were just like a bit
'Cause-
heavy at times.
But you
That
think
was,
they'd like adapt it a little bit, but nah, you watch this
Right.
movie and it's like, hey kids, today's lesson is grief. I'm like,
Yeah,
what do you
Yeah,
mean?
apparently. Like the Gail Carson Levine books, because that was before they made like the Tinkerbell movies. They were trying out the Pixie Hollow thing with the Gail Carson Levine books. So like Tink had a friend group, and like they changed the friend group for the movie, but they kept Queen Clary and Vidya and Terrence. But like the
Okay.
books
Because-
would be
because
like
because Vidya's
the books would be
dynamic-
like there's
It's a-
the entirety of Pixie Hollow is flooding, and we're gonna tell you about the fairies who drowned. And like 6-year-old me was like, cool, I guess.
Yeah,
It's
if
like trying to pick
Mother
up warrior cats and picking up the Watership Down instead by accident. Like that's like crazy.
Both of us, both books that we love.
Dove- I have
Cor-
Watership Down is my favorite book. Warriors
That's
is kind of rougher
hey
than Watership
hey
Down.
good book. That's crazy. That's sorry. Like that's a good book. That's a crazy favorite book pick. I will say.
Although
Yeah,
what's
I'd
very funny is that
I
means
think
when
Warriors is way rougher than Watership. Watership Down isn't. I mean, I know the '80s movie makes it seem like really bloody. Watership Down isn't bad. I think Warriors is way worse.
Warriors
If
is
you-
worse,
late
but it's
Warriors,
more spaced
yeah.
out because it's
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
long series. So you
Because
got
it's
like
a
long
series
gaps between genocides. Like
Can't believe I'm making it public that I was a warrior cats kid.
Yeah,
oh, so was I. I was that kid who played warrior cats on the playground.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I got secondhand smoke of those books. I don't think I ever read them, but both of my sisters did. So we would get all of our stuffed cats and play Warrior Clan with all of our stuffed cats, and they would explain the rules to me as I was playing with them. Because I was like, wait, I don't know what a menacing cat is, and they would explain it to me. So I got like almost the universe explanation instead of like a lot of the story stuff.
I blame
Real
warrior cats and Artemis Fowl for why I'm so into
Artemis
fantasy in general.
Artemis Fowl was good.
Oh, I love that
Shock-
we're all the same.
Shocker, a
person.
bunch of neurodivergent people grew up on the same books.
Right? That's crazy.
What I was gonna say
Insane.
with Warriors is the important question is what warrior clan all the FNAF characters go to.
Oh,
Oh, that's
no,
a,
that's-
a whole podcast episode.
That's
also.
a video that I don't know if I'm strong enough to make. That's I think making that video will break me.
Would
That will tear the
absolutely like
fandom
warrior
apart.
cats
The
sort all
fandom
the
war.
like all of her ghost children friends. She's like, okay,
We'll
you're
get
gonna
a
be in
fandom world
ThunderClan.
who should be in River Clan. Like, they'll tear everyone apart.
Oh,
But,
okay. But speaking of movies, before we continue
Yes,
on Warrior
movies.
Cats, while we're on movies, we'll use that as a springboard. FNAF 2 movie. It's coming out this year, or is that next year?
Next year.
Next year. Sonic 3 is coming out this year.
Yes.
Foreshadowing. So next year, Sonic 2 movie comes out. I want to start off a kind of prediction conversation with, during FNAF week, Scott gave out those 4 script pages. Did y'all read those? And
We
if
did.
so, which one do you think is the real one?
Okay,
I am
as
going
someone
to leave
who
this
went
one
to
Connie.
Corey,
Because
let me
Connie is the
as someone who
script
went
writer.
to as someone who went to
Not just creative writing, script writing.
yeah,
Okay.
I as someone who studied script writing, and like I say that as if that like gives me like a leg up. It doesn't. It's just something that I noticed. I think the last one is probably the most likely. The one where it's like an intro, like page 4, and it's like a random family coming into the FNAF 2 location and they see the carousel and that's it. Like, first off, it doesn't like give away too much, and second, like it basically sets up like what what they're gonna be doing, and like it just kind of made the most sense out of all of them.
That is the safest. Like the
Yeah.
other 3 pages have like major stuff in them.
Yeah, and also like some of the
those
other
are
3
a bit
pages are
topical.
crazy. Like, I mean, I can't
That was, like,
stop.
testing
I
us,
can't help but
like-
think of General Everly. I have them pulled up right now. Or the
Yeah,
whole
Scott was like, "How much
get
do
the
you
U.S.
expect to be
Army to
after-"
get in bed with a pizza place. I'm like, man, I'd be a little impressed if that is the direction they're going.
The U.S. Army go down, they find the secret room, and they find Project Shadow, made by
Essentially, yeah.
grandfather Professor.
General Everly underling Nightingale, aka Gunn, is so.
Yeah, to be fair, he did put in what was her name? Branwyn Light into the most recent one.
Brodwin.
Brodwyn, that's it.
Yeah, y'all know. I totally misread that for like 2 weeks. I read it as Brownin the entire time. And my brain mentally switched the W in the end. I'm like, yeah, Brownin. I've never heard that name
Yeah.
before.
Oh,
And then for like,
The only reason
I
we
recorded
knew how
like
to-
2 videos worth, and all my comments were like, hey, my name is Bronwyn. Can you please say it right? I was like, oh shit.
The only reason I know how to pronounce it is because like it like Branwyn means like raven, and my older sister was like, that's a pretty name. And then we watched Ruby as kids, and like there were 2
Okay,
characters whose last name was
yeah.
Branwyn, and they turned into crows. So I was like, oh, I know how that goes. But
I know a lot about Ruby. I never got into it. I think it's just the art style didn't mesh with my brain.
yeah, it's all right. I like the music.
Oh yeah, the
Two
music and the
girls
character
fit.
design is peak.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
I
so FNAF 2 movie script. So we're on 4 is kind of this consensus.
Yeah, it's the
That's
the
the most likely.
safest option, as well as like it's the beginning of the movie, so like if that gets spoiled, especially if it's like, the people coming in and doing the, which is kind of how the first movie starts, and it's how a lot of horror movies starts. Like you got to show that there's stakes, so you got to show like people you don't care about yet. Like you got to get people excited. You got to have
And to an extent, it's
trying
like
to
the
show
way
that
the
he had
first.
died,
Oh,
there's
sorry.
Hook, and then we get to Mike like sleeping again or something.
And to an extent, the first movie opened in a similar but different way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having the night guard that we don't care about experiencing these horrors cut to people we know.
Right.
Yeah.
It
No,
would've
I
been
think that
different
makes a lot of
Fire,
sense.
but because then it would have been someone that at least quite a few people care about. As
Fair.
Fair.
I love Markiplier. I think if he was the first face I saw in the movie, I would have. I think it would have changed how I see the rest of the movie permanently.
100%.
I feel like it
Yeah.
would've been
I would have been like, what?
like I think the most like on the nose, this is for the fans bit, was the during the credits at the end when like Cory Kenshin gets jump scared by Balloon Boy, and then it cuts back to the song. And it's
Yeah.
like on its own. Like when I was watching it, I didn't think that, but just that clip, seeing it on its own, it's like, wow, that is very fan bait.
Yeah.
But that's probably the worst it gets, and it's not even that bad.
No, I think like
we also had
Markiplier
Game
being in
Theory
the
on
movie.
screen, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I loved it. I think Markiplier being in the movie, I know that like scheduling was an issue. I think if Markiplier anywhere else in the movie would have been peak. But I think opening with a 4-minute long Markiplier cameo would have thrown me off so bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
They should have gone with the fandom's idea and have like a Markiplier and Matt Pat like make out scene in the background. That's
True.
what's happening.
40 minutes long, and then it's Glam Rock Freddy and Glam Rock. Anyway,
Markiplier Markiplier react cam in the corner, as he's
That
just
would've been
watching the
peak.
movie with us.
I am so
But-
sad that they released DVDs of the movie and didn't have a Markiplier React Cam version.
Maybe for
Someone should make that.
I do think that if they have a cameo, they should have a bite of 87 scene and cut to Markiplier screaming and then cut
that's
back.
the best place to have Markiplier is a Bite of 87 scene.
Oh
Especially
yeah, I mean the amount of people in like theaters who shouted out, "Was that the Bite of 87 on that scene?"
Yeah.
Like,
They did that.
Which like speaking of, I knew their jaws were strong. Wow.
in half.
In like spine
In
and
half.
Like the
I did that
spine-
Cleanly
the
in half.
theater. I screamed
Also,
at the Bite of 87, and a girl in my row also screamed it at the same time, and we like had a spiritual connection.
That was the first movie that I considered going to the theater alone because I was at college at the time, so we were in different states. That was the first time I ever considered going to a theater alone just for the experience. And then I was having a rough time that year, so I didn't. But part of me like is like, God, I wish I was able to do that because like, wow, the experience.
I'm such a proponent of doing things by yourself. Like the amount of times, and like I've been with my now like married partner, but I've been with my partner for 10 plus years. I think this year is our, doing quick math right now, 13th like dating anniversary. So like we've been together forever. But even when we were together, like going to do things alone sometimes is a really nice refresher. The amount of times when I was in college, there was this like small ramen place that had like 2 dining rooms. The amount of times I'd just get lunch there by myself. Oh, it's so nice. It's so nice to just be. It's a weird experience.
Yeah,
and I did need a podcast to not be alone with my thoughts, but it was nice to just be.
Average ADHD experience.
Yeah.
I need a
Well,
podcast.
I like just like going to like, I don't know, Target and just kind of wandering the aisles. But first time I went to the
Retail
movie theater
therapy.
alone.
I love it.
Yeah. First time I went to the movie theater alone was to see Abigail at the beginning of this year. That was fun.
Right. It's not the going alone. For me, it was less going alone. Like, I'm fine going places alone, especially because I'm in this state alone, so I do a lot of it.
Fair.
But, it was more the movie theater. I don't usually like movie theaters because I have pretty bad, like, sensory issues when it comes to audio stuff. So just, like,
Oh, yeah. And,
being
like
in
a horror
group
movie
room with
specifically is,
people
like,
and
really rough.
popcorn and stepping and movement, and we're short, so there's always a head in front of the screen. So, if it's going, so usually it's like, well, if I'm going with Connie and like we're going to see a movie I really want to see, then like it's worth it because like I get some time and that kind of stuff.
And you have that anchor that way too.
But like the reason FNAF appealed to me was like, well, if I'm not being annoyed by the audience and instead me and the audience are in it together, then maybe it'll be different. But I didn't get to. It's
gonna be us with Sonic 3.
Probably.
Yeah. And hey, FNAF 2's coming out next year, so perfect timing.
I will be going dressed as Charlie.
Yeah.
I haven't considered cosplaying to a movie before. I've done cosplay a lot in the past for like conventions. I've never done it for a movie, but I feel like the FNAF movie is like one of the ones to do it for.
I was planning on doing a very low key quote unquote Mike cosplay, which was a skeleton sweatshirt that I have and a purple beanie with security guard badge, and that was gonna be it.
Hey, that's enough. That's
I think the FNAF people would understand.
One of the things I've been thinking about the FNAF 2 movie specifically, right? Because I'm pretty sure they confirmed it's not a prequel. So there's the 2 big questions that I've seen popping up. I was curious on y'all's thoughts on it. And the 2 being, why are we going back, right? And who's opening the new place? Because we know it's the toys. Like, that's confirmed at this point. So where are the toys coming from and who's opening it?
Now, I do have a very specific thought, and that thought is that we can make this both a sequel and a prequel if Mike just decides he needs some history and goes back to the location and goes into the ball pit and then comes out again. And there's suddenly
if this turns into the 5th Into the Pit adaptation, I'm walking out.
Get Josh Hutcherson into that pit.
So the thing with, speaking of which, if you guys haven't been following our community tab, we don't have a PC, and so the only way we can play Into the Pit is on Switch, and the Switch game is unwinnable currently. and now they won't release the patch. So we are literally like a month behind FNAF Theory.
It's not at all on Megacat. It's because Megacat posted on Twitter like, "Hey, it looks like the Switch version isn't out yet. We're trying to figure stuff out and we'll keep you updated." So
I fully believe it's Nintendo fucking around. Like, I fully believe that.
Because the first time when they released it, and tricked us into thinking we could play it on launch, it was Nintendo. But you fall out of the floor when you look at the cameras on night 4. You fall out of the map, and it's kind of fun. Like, in retrospect, it's really funny.
Hey, on the bright side, the week before came out, so you can play that instead.
Oh yeah, we were able to play that.
The week before.
But we're still like, we've literally like not watched any theories on Into the Pit because we still want to like finish it ourselves.
Yeah.
But what
last thing we did was we managed to get the Count the Ways cutscene, and that made me extremely happy.
So what is good about it though is I rush ordered from home my Switch dock because you can use like your computer as a TV screen, and then I was thinking then I can play Into the Pit and I can stream it to my sisters so we can like play it together and not like separately, because that's what we did for when it first came out. Is I was still home, so I played it on the TV, and then we found out we were soft locked, or hard locked, sorry. But nothing was working, and pretty much the hard way I learned that I needed a capture card, and I didn't have one and wasn't able to get one in any timely manner. I believe it's coming in tomorrow. So if it comes out
maybe
tomorrow,
Into the Pit will be out when the capture card comes out.
So if I get my capture card before it comes out, then we'll be able to do that anyway.
I remember telling Cory.
No, go on.
I remember telling Cory, I was like, listen, when this game drops, we're going to play it. We're going to finish Night 5. We're going to get one ending. And then I'm just going to go watch all the FNAF tubers we missed in the last month. And I don't care. Like, I'm not getting this, like, other endings or whatever.
I might try to get all the endings, but I don't know. I mean, we'll see. We'll see if it's viable. Like, if it isn't, like,
all I would say is save a separate file before you enter the ball pit on the last night. You can accomplish pretty much every ending starting on day 5 as long as you like can go and collect stuff.
All right, that's good. That is fun.
As far as I'm aware, all the like necessary things can be done during the daytime on the last day. The only thing is when you enter that ball pit on the last day, it will autosave. Okay. So like you want to make sure you have that save ready.
One of the things we did, because we found a lot of the Easter eggs, everything except for like the Night 5 stuff, which something people don't bring up is I found, I heard people talking about like the Night 5 call where you like hear the spring locking, which we haven't listened to yet, but like we know what happens there.
Because we haven't gotten to that on.
You can do that on any night.
We can do it, but you don't hear the spring locking. You hear like this circus music and then it cuts off. And no one has talked
I think I'm thinking of a different phone call.
Yeah, there's a different phone call, but I think it's the spring locking one where you only hear it Night 5. The first 4 nights, it's like this like little it's not a music box. It's like, oh, what's that thing? The like it's like a xylophone sounding almost, like a little circus song, and then it cuts off. And it's the same the first 4 nights. So I heard the number and I was like, oh, people are showing this number and saying it's important, so let's call it while we're stuck here. And we heard that and I was like, okay, what's so important about that? And then I found out it was different on Night 5.
Interesting. I'll have to look into that because the only spring locking one I know of is if you dial spring T, it will it will essentially play the audio of the end of Follow Me. Like it lines up 1-to-1.
I believe it's that one.
Because on night 1 to 4, it just plays a xylophone or whatever.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to double check that because I don't remember that.
Which I don't.
It could just be a Switch exclusive.
It might be. Yeah, it might be Switch being weird. I don't know.
Important Switch thing that my friend Scarlett noticed. My friend Scarlett noticed, and she's also the one who told us, hey, spam the candy machine. There's a surprise. But she said that when she was watching Let's Players, she noticed that Susie gets name-dropped in Gabrielle's relative's journal in the Switch version and not in any of the other released versions. In the Switch version, on the page where it's talking about Susie Chica nesting and the cupcake biting people and being a dog, there's like a note that like says Susie with a question mark, and that got removed in all the other versions.
Someone heard Chica saying Susie with the question mark.
That's crazy.
It's hard to tell whether it was. It's hard to tell in writing whether they were saying she was saying Susie question mark, like they were like Susie, who's Susie, or if Chica was saying Susie, like questioning. It's hard to
And,
tell.
like, with that getting cut,
Juxtaposing that with the... Sorry, go on.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say, juxtaposing that with the week before is very interesting.
Oh,
Yeah.
the Happy Birthday Susie made me lose my mind.
Oh
my
my-
favorite short.
Yeah, that blew my mind when I saw that.
My favorite short is Coming Home, just because of
that-
how well
yeah.
it's written.
I mean, for a while, it was basically confirmed that Susie was Chica.
Yeah, but just
She's
seeing
our
it so
universal concept.
directly confirmed is crazy.
and Jeremy.
Yeah, and Jeremy
When-
Bonnie.
Jeremy is like, Jeremy got me, sorry, Bonnie. It's like, that's two out
Yeah.
of the four, which means we have very
Like,
succinct idea of the other two.
At this point, I think Gabriel, Fritz, Susie, Jeremy is just... we can just say this is true. Like,
Yeah. Oh,
The
yeah.
other two,
Like,
like,
I
we have a
when
50 chance that have a clue towards one option, so I'm gonna go with that one.
when
Yeah.
I read the week before the first time and it said that, I'm like, finally, we don't have to say we're pretty sure.
yeah. Like, at this point, I'm just going to say it. And if it comes out that I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But if I'm wrong at this point, that's bad writing on their part. I don't like
yeah.
So rare we can say that as a FNAF fan, especially because even for the kids, like they're different. In every other canon, it's different. Like it's a different
Yeah.
group of kids.
Silver Eyes is different. A lot of the...
Our universal constant is Susie.
Yeah. Yeah,
That was my
Susie
beat.
is...
The movie, it looks like he grabs someone else first. Like Susie isn't the first one, but either
Yeah,
other
if the
than
intro is to be, like, direct.
that, mhm.
The,
I am
the
interested
important,
to see where
I
they're
think-
going to show up in this movie. If
In-
it's,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
toys.
which makes circling around to that movie does make me wonder, like, whether it's going to be moved to this timeline or, like, put back in, like, the 80s, 90s, or whatever. If they're going to tell us anything about the DCI, or if it happened.
Or if it
God, I
exists.
hope we get any information
Literally
on the DCI.
anything.
I really do.
And
Oh
we
my
were talking
God.
about this on the FNAF Back podcast, but one of our, like, side theories, and it's a side theory, it's like, we don't think this is going to happen, but, like, this is fun, like, sometimes bouncing around, like, oh, that could be, is, like, the idea of, in the game universe, the DCI are the kids who were Charlie's friends in the Silver Eyes. And
Interesting.
Based on
they
certain
didn't,
things in the
and
Silver
because
Eyes.
in the books, FNAF 2 doesn't seem to have happened, because Charlie, in the
Right,
Twisted Ones,
it
Charlie
kind of
goes
goes
into the
straight
FNAF 2
to Circus
location, and it's
Babies.
never been opened. She goes to
Yeah.
this FNAF 2 location, it's never been opened. And when you look at the map of, like, the blood puddles, like, one of them's under the table, which Carlton would say he used to hide under the table to, like, see if he could stay overnight. One of them's near where the carousel would be, and Charlie's friends like to talk about the carousel. And it's, like, apparently walking distance from, like, where Charlie and Jessica were at college, so it's, like, nearby where they all lived. And, like,
As
the
well
idea
as-
that
Interesting.
like,
There's the
Charlie was
bloodstain
trying
also-
to save
there's-
them just
there's the
makes us
bloodstain
emotional,
also
but, like,
there's the bloodstain behind Toy Bonnie, which Jessica said Bonnie made her feel safe.
yeah,
Interesting.
so, like,
There's certain
it's
characters
not
that, like,
something we're gonna say, like, this is our, like,
Not
theory, because, like, there's
true.
not a lot to it, but, like,
But
it
it's
would
an
be very
interesting, like,
depressing.
train of thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
save them and stuff. It's like it's a fun idea to think about.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, it's one of those, it's there's a lot of theories in this franchise that, like, I don't believe, but I love brainstorming about.
Right.
And you know what I mean? or like
Yeah.
I'm not sure on, but even just thinking about that can elucidate something useful.
And I think it comes from I noticed, and I think it's getting better, but as a person who's been in a theory space, at least in the background for a while, and by in the background, I mean I was in the back of the class because I was a child, was a lot of people in fandom will generally kind of feel like they need to justify their headcanon through proving it. So you can say this with ships as well. A lot of ships, especially and I would say 2010s, people like had to prove that their ship was canon. And you can have a ship with backing or a headcanon. Like but it was the interesting difficulty of people separating headcanon with backing behind it or theory.
Yeah,
Because those are kind of two
100%.
because there are headcanons, and then there are headcanons that like this, and this can lead me to this conclusion, which is my headcanon, and then there's a theory of like I think they were actually going for this.
Yeah, no, 100%. That happens a lot. And you kind of get that sense of it a lot of the time when A good way to sniff out one of those like headcanon with backing is if it feels that all of the evidence is post hoc justification, right? The idea of like, oh, I had this idea, let me seek out the evidence that backs it, which isn't always invalid. Like there are ways to do that in like a good and like useful way, but that is often a part of that like headcanon with backing versus theory, or like even the fact of like when I say that like Franny is canon, especially like with the glam rocks, that's, you know, it's not a headcanon with backing, it's a confirmed fact, but that's not the point that we're talking about.
Listen, they based them off of like their designs off of what was it, David Bowie and Freddie Mercury?
Yeah,
like
no, they're
two
boyfriends. It's fine.
bisexual kings. Like they come on.
Poster and only, well, because all of their rooms only have their merch in them, except for the Bonnie like backroom thing, which is filled with Freddie merch.
Exactly.
Like,
filled with Freddie merch, and I still can't get over the way Kellen Goff read the line, "I still miss him," or whatever it was. Like there was the depth in that. I was like, oh, that's a lover. That's. I don't say that about my friends.
Yeah, I do know, and my favorite thing to say about Franny is it is very possible because all of the glam rock endos are based on the Mimic program. I mean, this is very, I mean,
right,
especially with the VR thing and Help Wanted 2, it's like, okay, so they're Mimic.
Yeah, that's the line of the Mimics that we kind of see in the books.
Yeah. We can just kind of assume
Freddie and Bonnie all two guys kiss and go, oh my god, we can do that, and mimicked it.
So I need you to understand I need you to understand our perspective on this. You cut out for a second there, so I went to fill the gap to like fill the air, and then there was a silence, and then you filled in something, and then you came back, and you came back on. They saw two guys kiss and mimicked it. It's like that's where we came back to.
I think the general gist of that was that their mimic AI, they see, they do. The mimic AIs saw two guys kissing and went, "Oh my god, we can do that," and they replicated.
Where's
true?
I'm gonna send.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
It's a meme someone on Reddit made, I think, which is
is
like
it the don't
look
Billy?
No, it's
mother.
It's like a robot, and it says like learning over it, and it's like two guys kissing, and it's like Afton and men.
Wait, I think I've seen that. Yeah.
Yes,
I think I know what you're talking about.
Learning.
I am curious, and this maybe is just copium from me. Speaking of the movie, though, so I this might just be copium.
Don't worry, we're getting to Copia once we get to Sonic 3. I have some Copia.
Which we're about to. But I love that meme. I'll if I remember to, I'll put it on screen. It's a good meme. I am curious if it's not so like the toys, even though it's not a prequel, the toys only existing in flashbacks is totally possible. But if the toys are new and they're not doing a DCI, I wonder if this will somehow give like circumstantial evidence for my theory of that I've been like the blah words for the theory that I've been trying to purport of the original's spare parts being used for the toys being how the MCI move over to the toys. Is that true? Yeah. But you know that we have an opportunity. I'll hope.
Well, that's also the question of like if it's open at all. I think I don't remember. Maybe they revealed it will be, but it's but then there's like we're going back to another abandoned thing, and it being an open Freddy's location does raise stakes.
Oh yeah, and I'm also wondering like
everyone get your kids out of here, please.
Oh yeah, and like a matter of like. So they kind of mentioned that the movies are going to be close to the games, like in this order they come out in, which then begs the question, okay, so the third movie is going to be closer to FNAF 3. If that's true, are we going to see Springtrap in this movie? There's a chance we don't.
Well, just because there's like they have the Matthew Lillard star power, he's the fan favorite.
Right, like I feel like they have to, but there's a chance they don't.
My thought is it'll go because the first movie
flashbacks.
My thought is that the first movie had like weird parallel, kind of like Security Breach and Ruin like stuff. Is the first movie had some weird parallels to Silver Eyes, with
A lot
like
of
the
parallels to Silver Eyes,
dreaming
yeah.
about the brother being kidnapped, the drawing, that whole thing.
The
So
whole
if-
ending sequence is like one-to-one with
almost
the
feels
fourth
like a
closet.
soft- like, to me, it almost feels like a soft reboot of like, hey, I liked this idea, but I want to redo it and have Mike in here and etc. Like
the idea
hey, that might be
is
the idea behind it, I don't know.
if the first one is Silver Eyes and this is like gonna be Twisted Ones, I can see them doing like the Twisted Ones thing of like Springtrap comes out at the end to like
I could see that.
be the big bad.
The restaurant
like,
is open.
they-
It could be, like,
They
Mike.
seem to be referencing Twisted Ones quite a bit because I know Into the Pit there is a like rare Easter
Straight up
egg
the
where
Twisted
the
Ones
Godzilla
poster. Yeah.
And then like the week before, one of the endings is the animatronics escape
Oh,
and make
yeah.
a path to your house of like
Yeah.
dead kids per night, which is just straight up that happened in the Twisted Ones.
There's a
Charlie.
lot of weird things
it's
about the
well-
animatronics trying to escape in that book.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
like
Oh, and I
because
I
we
am-
had like
I- and we talked about it in length, but I am absolutely I don't trust quote unquote Dave from maintenance, seeming how he knew about all those.
Do you
tables.
also think it's William?
Oh,
Do you
absolutely.
also think it's William?
That is
as soon as
Dave from
when I read this,
maintenance.
because we did a live stream where I basically DM'd the week before, and I had Cory and our sister North, decide which path to take, and I had a map up, which was the cause of our problems because I didn't know how to run Streamlabs. But
And if you're wondering, I did chapter the stream out. It's like 7 hours or something.
Oh yeah, I
but
get
I
it. It's a
did
lot. It's a
separate out.
dense
It
book.
says like
Oh, yeah.
night 1, night 2, backtracking, and then I have us theorizing.
Mhm.
But as soon as I said Dave from maintenance, I hear North go like, "Oh," and then Cory. It took Cory a second. She's like,
You
"Huh."
had to wait. You had to
Yeah.
wait. You kept going, expecting us to realize something, and then you were like, "Did y'all?" And we were like, "What?" And you said Dave from maintenance, and then I was like, "Oh!"
Yeah.
Like also
the way
because like the
talks
way he
and-
talks,
oh my
the
God.
The way he talks, the way that
Coco
he's
talks about
the
him.
weird guy who's kind of crabby. Like, yeah.
Well, that
William.
and he specifically point out that he is really good at bowling, which in both that chapter itself and in Security Breach is intrinsically connected to the Bonnie character. So like,
Or Bonnie was
Fair.
his head. They talk
Also-
about him being good at bowling. He like is maintenance with the animatronics when in the fifth night, if you call him, he says like phone Ralph's like, "Oh, the weird panel, the panel's weird," and Dave's like, "Oh, I'm coming over," and Ralph's like, "No, don't do that," and
Me
Cory
me,
like
he
starts
starts
screaming.
and I said, "No, don't have him come over. He's putting on the fucking suit. I've seen
Yeah.
the movie."
Yeah, it's literally like, this is the 4th time you've called me at 2 a.m. I'm coming over. No, please don't.
Please yeah, don't. He also and the later that call when he was like, "Oh, who knows what'll happen if like, some power if there's power stuff." Then he's like, "Oh, will they go on a murderous rampage?" And he's just like, "Not funny, Ralph." Dude.
Yeah.
Chills.
I'm up with Dave from maintenance,
And
especially since
I was
like
saying is a lot of
calling.
it, yeah, is a lot of the book is very much like the animatronics are trying to escape, which
Mhm.
I would not be surprised if they tried to do that on their own because they're like that. But the part of it is they're charging panels. It's a crawl space underneath with a bunch of physical wires were rerouted. It wasn't like ghost powers or anything. Physical wires were moved towards the charging stations in a crawl space that there's no way they could fit in. And so my thought was, well, Dave for maintenance knows the correct order. It's not them who's trying to get them out of the restaurant.
Interesting.
Because my
With
thought
the
is,
Twisted
they have
Ones parallels with him sending the Twisted Ones
Yeah.
after Charlie, and like the one ending just being Twisted Ones but with Capelia. Like,
Yeah, essentially.
which is, but as I was saying is, if the FNAF 2 location is open in the next movie, then it does have a similar setup to the Twisted Ones because it was a FNAF location that was open and they're making a line. They could very well be making a line to either Mike or Abby. It doesn't really matter. As long as there are some dead bodies. If there's a line, then, I could totally see
Also,
that.
with the Twisted
if
Ones.
I see them pull out like a map and start drawing a line, I know
Yup.
John
Oh,
FNAF is going to be losing his mind in the theater.
Oh man, I would too. I loved the Twisted Ones, but I will say the what would happen is with the Twisted Ones, I keep saying this. If I am sitting in the movie theater and I have to hear the line, I didn't take your brother, I took you, I am gonna just start, like, eating the furniture around me. Like,
Oh man.
if that, like, because that's it was a good well-written scene. It was a good punch, but like with the robot Charlie thing they put in after just being ridiculous, if they do that in the movies just to piss us off.
What's the over-under on Vanessa being a robot? What's the over-under on that?
She was in the hospital, and I feel like they would have noticed.
I think the doctors would have been like, "Hey, she doesn't feel like she has muscle here," and like, put her over.
True.
Like, oh, like the illusion disc can like trick machinery.
Hold on, she had a stab wound that they had to heal. If there was wires in there, they would have found out.
Yeah.
Now, what's the over-under on the Vanessa is Garrett theory? Because I kind of like that one too.
What is that?
Trans queen. Good for her.
Trans queen.
You know what if she's
No, it's just the idea of like we don't know what happened to Garrett and we don't know where Vanessa came from. They have the same plane, I mean.
Well, if like the in like fourth closet, like Charlie has the doll inside of her or whatever. If like Mike or Abby like gets ripped open and we see
opens up and Garrett is in there.
Well, no, I was saying if the chest opens up and like there's the plane in there. I
will lose my mind. I mean, no, it's the Russian nesting doll. Vanessa's chest cavity opens up and Garrett is in there, and then Garrett's chest cavity opens up and the plane is in there.
And then you open that up and there's Gregory.
No,
yes,
the plane, but I was gonna say, any of the characters in that plane mini game from FNAF World.
Oh, the FNAF fighters or whatever.
Yeah, FNAF fighters. Yeah, it's one of those.
Oh man, you open it up and it's just the Chica. You won't get to a really small screen.
And then Chica opens up. Yeah, and then Chica opens up and it's Markiplier. That's how we get him in.
That's the ending of FNAF 3. We actually solved that.
Movie predictions we're way ahead. We predicted FNAF 3.
Speaking of third movies, look, we talked about FNAF because we have to. It's the podcast. Now that that's out of the way, here's the real reason I got you on. Sonic 3 movie predictions.
Shadow the Hedgehog is my favorite.
I have such a chip on my shoulder. I have such a chip on my shoulder because I made a Twitter thread immediately after watching the Sonic 1 movie, doing a Sonic 2 prediction, and it was like 85% right. Wow. This is before they announced Idris Elba. I was so happy about it.
Yeah.
I got a little ambitious because I thought that we would have seen Metal Sonic in Sonic 2, and I was wrong.
The one prediction I've seen, because I haven't seen a whole lot of like predictions, but one of them I have seen is that, because in the trailer we see Sonic like hand over one of his quills to Robotnik, and the idea is like, well, he's probably just going to power his stuff with that. But there's also people have said either in this movie or the next one that could become Metal Sonic, and if they're
really hope
if they're not introducing Amy in this one, then having Metal Sonic and Amy introduced in the same movie would be true to form because of Sonic.
Oh yeah.
So
I think the quill being Metal Sonic and then being our way of having Amy be in the fourth movie, I think would be perfect.
Yeah. Because it makes because I know she was, I mean, we explained her history in the video, but I feel best when she is introduced alongside Metal Sonic. For some reason, just those two as characters go really well together. I'm not a secret Met Amy shipper. Stop looking at me.
It's just that they have a limited amount of time to do X amount of character development. But the speaking, I do have like one
my prediction for 3 was that they're not going to do Amy, or my hope, because, and this happens with superhero movies a lot, and I'm glad they're not. Even if I really hope Rouge is in the movie, I'm going to be severely disappointed if she isn't. But moving past that,
Copium Rouge thing, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Moving past that, I said because a lot of people were like, Amy should be in the movie because we want the girl character, we want Amy because we love Amy, and 3 because she has that big speech in Sonic Adventure 2 that she gives to Shadow that people like, when people who really like Amy really like that she has that. But here's the thing, if they did Shadow and Amy and Rouge and whoever else, Gerald, Maria, etc., that's a lot of characters, and then you have Age of Ultron. And we don't want another Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
My thought was, I think they need to stick to Shadow, Gerald, Maria, Rouge, if you also try to and because here's the thing is Amy isn't connected to that storyline. Those four characters are heavily connected to each other, so introducing them in the same thing makes sense. Amy, not so much. She doesn't even do a lot in the game, so you'd have to introduce a whole character arc, her backstory, who she is, why she's there. It would be a lot to do along with all the other characters, so it was less a prediction and more, please, I know y'all want this, but it will be better if Amy is not in this movie, and so far it looks like she's not. So I'm fine waiting. I'm fine waiting because she'll get the time she deserves. You know,
I see her as a post credits. I see her as a post credits reveal, a la Tales from Sonic 1.
Yeah,
I feel like with the idea the Quill becomes Metal Sonic, I can see the next movie being Sonic Heroes. Like,
yeah, 100%. Well, in that same vein, I kind of thought for a long time. Sorry, you finish your thoughts.
No, you go ahead.
No, you go.
We all have ADHD. We're gonna keep jumping at each other like this. In that same vein, I thought when doing the Sonic 2 prediction, my the end of that was, and then Sonic 3 will be Sonic Adventure 2. Like, because I didn't think they would do Sonic Adventure as a movie.
So
because as much as I love Sonic Adventure, I just think Shadow is way more marketable than Chaos, and that's just a fact.
My prediction, as someone who loves Chaos in more than one way, is with the gathering of Chaos Emeralds and characters, Chaos would be a really good, like, maybe not finale movie, depends on how long they want to go, but that might be an quote-unquote Avengers, if we're going with Marvel-based stuff, which I don't know a whole lot about Marvel because I haven't watched those movies in, like, years.
That could be the we need everyone threat.
That could be the Avengers, quote-unquote, of where the big one, of we're gathering everyone together and they're going to put Chaos and everything more towards the end because of how connected it is to the Chaos and Master Emeralds and all that stuff. Though I did make memes when the Master Emerald breaks in the second movie of a Chaos and Tikal booking it out of there as fast as possible.
Yeah.
That's how they got out.
From when the Sonic 2 trailer dropped, I drew like a live Emerald, like it was the shot of Knuckles and Sonic fighting, and I drew live Emerald reaction and Tikal and Chaos like with mugs and popcorn, just being like, what is going on out there?
Let's go. I know my first thought, because when seeing the Master Emerald break was, oh, Chaos and Tikal just got out of there.
Yeah. For Sonic, I've seen a lot of copium for Amy being in there, and it's always been the same thing of, oh, well, in this shot, they're a little off-center, and they're more set up for a 4-person shot. And every time it's not been convincing. I think the one image that's been shared the most has been the pier, when they're, like, going to Eggman's, like, underwater thing or whatever. And it's like, oh, well, you see, there's Tails, Sonic, Knuckles, and then there's a fourth spot where they could have been lined up perfectly. And I'm like, they can't line them up perfectly.
Yeah.
Because Agent Stone is on the end of the pier, and then the silhouettes would get blocked. That's why they're weirdly spaced. Like, that's
cinematography.
Yeah.
3 characters are kind of hard to even, I mean, it depends on what you're doing, because even in, like, Superstars, where they have the 4-person lineup, they have some difficulty lining them up, because in Superstars and in a lot of stuff, they want Sonic front and center. But if you have 3 other characters, then that's kind of hard to do. Which, I mean, here's the thing, is when it came to Superstars, people were right. There's an empty space in the menu, and when you unlock Trip, she does show up there. So I think people were riding off that high when it comes to there's an empty space on screen.
Well, I saw people doing that with Avengers Endgame. They were like, Loki should be here. And I was like, what?
Well, to be fair, Marvel does have a track record of editing characters out of trailers. So that was kind of the thinking.
Yeah. And I think, here's the thing, is for the last movie, they were very open. People knew about Knuckles because someone took a picture of the set where they had a Knuckles statue, and they didn't care. Like, they cared less than Marvel about
They announced Idris Elba, like, really early on.
Yeah. And either it's, I don't know. I think this time they're trying to be more careful with spoiler stuff, which is either a good thing or a bad thing. Especially because a lot of stuff has been released. Like, the trailer was released pretty late into the game.
Yeah. And I will say, amazing trailer. Holy. Yeah. Like, I knew, like, people like us are already going to be hyped for Sonic 3. But the amount of, like, Sonic fans who were like, wait, this trailer looks peak, was great.
The amount of... the thing is, I remember when the trailer dropped, because I'm, like, deep in Sonic Tumblr, which is usually pretty chill, but there were a lot of people who were like, oh my gosh, are they going to cut the like military being like the military is awful like plot line, and I was like, because like they didn't show it in the trailer, and I was like, I feel like they're gonna want to save that for like the movie.
I think they kind of did show a little bit of it in the trailer too.
They show soldiers pointing guns at like Maria's dead body, so like
that's pretty there, and I'm pretty sure Tom like is like about to get shot by gun soldiers or whatever.
The prediction there was because so here's the thing is a lot of the prediction is there's going to be a double crossing where like they hire these characters and then they're like, wait, you were the ones behind all this. We should have, wait, you are the ones who caused Shadow to be like this in the first place, like the kind of like reveal. And people were fighting against that for various reasons. And because they were like, well, why can't they just do the kidnapping plot? Because they did it in the second movie. Sonic got kidnapped by gun. So because they already did that, they can't just do it again, both in writing and in universe. Like in universe, they wouldn't be stupid enough to try to capture him again because it didn't work the first time, and now there's 2 extra hands on deck that'll fight for him. So tricking him into working.
The way I
them
put it on Tumblr was they can't. They have to lie to these like fit preteen aliens that they totally didn't cause all the problems that cause Shadow, because if they knew, they would just start fighting them, and each of these preteen aliens individually is more powerful than like
the entire US.
So
yeah.
Good news, Sonic. We've wiped out the entire United States military.
There is also the question I've been speaking of like repeating storylines and plot beats. Because like I'm so sure that Shadow will not be the final villain of the third movie. It is so against his character to be the final villain of that movie.
And it is interesting.
But are they going to do essentially Sonic 2 again? Where it's, I'm the enemy, we're friends by the end of it. And I don't think friends for Shadow, but you know what I mean.
I think the writers have already talked about that, where the difference is that after befriending Knuckles, Sonic sees Shadow and is going to, again, with the why can't we talk about this? Sonic befriended Knuckles, and now he thinks he could just do that with Shadow, but Shadow's a different case, and it's not as easy. As well as his memory may or may not have been fucked with if we're going by like the game rules, because in the game and in X, like Gerald actively messed with his memory so that he would be more murderous.
Right, and I mean, Shadow's memory gets fucked with every game that came out. Like,
he has an issue.
Like I remember there was a Once Upon a Time podcast I used to listen to because I watched Once Upon a Time like a comedy, and the podcast was like really funny. But they were like at this point, like by like the 8th amnesia plot, they were like, these people should just start keeping journals and just like flip through it and be like, all right, we'll leave off.
I think there was actually like an official like little Sonic comic about that, wasn't there? It was like
I'm not too well versed on the comics, so I would not know.
It wasn't IDW. It was like a mini like 4-panel thing, because I don't know if they must still be doing that, where they'll like get a random artist.
They're the Archie off panels. Do not call them the little Sonic.
No, they're not the Archie off panels. The one they posted on Twitter recently. And like they've stopped for a few months, so they would get a random artist and have them do like a cute little 4-panel, and one of them was Shadow like, oh my god, I forgot my memory, and then Tails is running up like, no wait, I got you, and hands him a journal. Like, I swear to God,
funny.
That was a thing.
Hey, why do you think Gerald's alive?
He handed him Gerald's journal, and Gerald's journal had like stickers in it, and it was written like a girl's diary. I think that's what.
That's really funny.
Was.
Okay, so Gerald, here's my main theory: is we only see him in like that last shot in the thing. I think that's either like. That's some sort of like either like Robotnik is tripping again, or it's like a hologram like AI kind of thing. Just
I
because
could see that.
It looks like they're on the Ark, or at least one of like the Ark areas while they're talking about that, while he talks to Gerald, and like also Gerald is old. Like 50 years ago. I don't know if he can survive on his own. Like
like either time travel is real, or there has to be another explanation.
You found the ball pit, dude.
True.
You found the Ark ball pit going back to 50 years ago.
BioLizard's just been playing in it the whole time. Hey, dude, I'm so sure BioLizard is the final villain of this movie.
That'd be so
Here's
cool.
The thing is,
but I know it's probably not happening.
because that's a lot to do with practical effects. And here's the thing: is the Sonic movies have a really good track record of doing as much with practical effects as possible. They built Sonic's cave, even though no one was going to be in it, and like swung the tire around, like and they wanted to do the car chase scene in the first movie as practical, but they just couldn't figure it out. So shoot, maybe part of the BioLizard will be practical, but that is one where I wouldn't even be mad if none of it was practical, because it is a lot.
Yeah, and
so
I mean,
it
at
might
that
be-
point,
I
realistically, it would be a
use it
fight
in-
between those four and BioLizard. So if it's fully
Mhm.
CG at that point, like, okay, cool, it looks good. I don't care.
Yeah.
I love practical effects, but with the
What I am
BioLizard,
interested in, I think, and this is what a lot of conversations were about, is there's a shot of Knuckles throwing Tails, like tossing him, and another shot of Knuckles behind him, Tails like flying into space with like a determined look, and it almost looks like the scene when Robotnik drops Sonic out in like the capsule, and like in the when like he drops him in the capsule, and then
when
it
he does the
blows up
chaos
and he's
control.
like, yeah. And it's like, did he drop it and Knuckles was like, okay, go get him, and just chucks Tails? Like, what?
I don't know. That
Chaos
would be
Emerald.
interesting if they
It's
do
really
that
funny.
scene.
They can't do the Piss Emerald anymore, so
Yeah,
yeah,
can't be piss rock. No piss rocks.
Because
listen, Jim for
everyone.
the bonus features, if Jim Carrey doesn't do the entire
Oh my
Twitter
God.
call out, what is
Yeah, because what
Right.
are they gonna
getting
do?
him back?
Fire him? It's Jim Carrey.
But,
I still think for the advertising, they should recreate Eggman's like warning and just release that as a
That would
commercial.
have been the move.
That would be
If it's
so
not
cool.
something they do, then
Well, I was saying for our like if they did like a Shadow the Hedgehog plot, like post credits tease where it's like Gerald's video to Shadow in that, but it's like cutting in and out.
Well, I don't know
Like,
if it would be a
Yeah.
post thing, because I don't know if they would do that next. But there is a lot, because we're exploring Shadow's past. There's a lot of places to hide Easter eggs and hints towards the Black Arms stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Which what even
The
is
game's coming
we have a friend that's like a Sonic archivist. Like, we have encyclopedic knowledge, but they like can find like a specific panel of the Shogakukan manga. It like they're an archivist. And one of the things, shouts out to Jester. One of the things Jester found is when Eggman is releasing Shadow and like it's playing. I think it's supposed to be Professor Gerald's journal. I'm not sure, something like that. In translation, it references because of the monstrous blacks, which I'm sure isn't great translated into English, but that's what it said. Which is the only thing of its kind, and which does imply that there was some idea towards the Black Arms during this production, but it just never made it into like quote unquote final cut or anything like full stream. Which does make me
wonder if I would love to see an in-movie Doom. That'd be
Black
crazy.
Doom.
Shadow.
Black Doom would
Doom
look
is already
so good.
animate. Black Doom's model is already like scarily kind of hyper realistic, so it wouldn't be too much of a change. It was not a crazy transfer, because like they were like, what if, because even in Shadow 05 they were like, well, we have all this new tech, what if we like put some pores on him and made him look gross? And they were like, hell yeah.
And it's something they're definitely comfortable with it, like in modern retellings and all that. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the first episode of the like series they're doing for Sonic Generation.
Speaking of which,
as
the first episode, Cory,
I'm so happy Emerald's back. I love him.
One of the writers on that episode is a storyboarder on Sonic 3. So yeah. I think we're in good hands.
Sometimes people have been worried because in the past I have argued against certain things, but whether or not you agree with certain things being a mischaracterization, Shadow has been pretty badly mischaracterized in the past. Whether or not it's the writer's fault, the studio's fault, etc.
The studio's fault.
Usually it's the studio's fault.
Of the time. And I'm going to assume if there's any major mischaracterizations in the third movie, it's Paramount's fault first.
Yeah.
Always
it looks like already a lot of things are Paramount's fault that people are complaining about, which, I mean, makes sense to me. I mean, that in the second movie, I mean, that's a whole, we'll go into that in a second, because we have a history, talking about our theorizing history. But before that, if there is, a lot of people are worried about mischaracterization just because it's happened a lot with Shadow, and Shadow is one of the most misunderstood characters maybe in all of fiction. I'm not going to say the most. I'm going to say one of the most because I've read some classic literature that people have way misread. So it he's very misunderstood, and sometimes by the writers or the studio themselves. And I have faith because Jeff Fowler, who's the director, directed the cinematic cutscenes for Shadow the Hedgehog 05. So like the scene where he's running
an animator for it. But
I think
he was definitely part of it.
No, I think he did the direction because he does because he always worked in animation direction beforehand. So he directed like
there's a lot of like long time Sonic creators in this movie production.
But yeah, Jeff Fowler, like specifically when the second movie came out, was in interviews being like, yeah, Shadow is next. I got my start working on Shadow. We know how important this is to the fans. So like, I'm not gonna like say like everyone form a parasocial bond with Jeff Fowler and I expect this to be perfect. But like, I have like more faith than I would in like
someone
a Marvel
else,
production.
Oh yeah. Oh my god.
Especially like was Cory,
sometimes I think about the universe where the Marvel writers got their hands on the Sonic franchise, and that universe sucks.
But
that plus Ugly Sonic.
Oh yeah. I remember because that was a theory of like, did they do that on purpose?
I don't think so.
Because for a while I was like, well, maybe. And then it was Odd Ones Out. His argument was, see, I can believe that they would make something this ugly in the same year that this came out, and pointed to Cats 2019. And I went, okay, yeah, no, never mind.
Yeah.
People can't make bad decisions. I forgot.
2019 in theaters for the bit, and it was awesome. We were the only ones there.
Cats, like first of all, the actual musical, great. The movie,
it's amazing.
Cats,
I love the musical.
As a drinking game is wonderful.
Oh,
as a movie is bad.
From 2019, we heard stories of people going in like drunk or high and having the craziest experience of their life.
Yeah.
With Sonic, because I do know like one thing was I remember the writers saying with the first movie they've been pitching Sonic movies since like the 90s, and like with this one Paramount said like they wouldn't do it unless it was like Sonic and a human like road trip thing.
Right.
They wanted humans.
So like when people are like, why did they do that? That was their only option. Like and they did good for their only option.
They got the poster child of human plus character road trip movie, James Marsden, to stand in and be like, I got you.
I'm pretty sure my Letterboxd review for like Hop 2009 or whatever is like half a star or whatever, and it says, don't worry, James Marsden, this is just a prerequisite to being Sonic's dad.
Yeah. Which that is something where because there's a lot of discussion about Tom's character, and I don't want to get into that. My job isn't his defender. That's not my job, so I'm not gonna do it. Pay me to do it, and then I'll do it. But I did kind of feel emotional as someone who is very invested in the Sonic canon. Hearing Sonic call someone dad is insane to me because they are so protective of that character. The last time I was trying to find, I need to go back into that day because I have a friend who is super into pre-boot Archie Sonic, and they can find me like specific panels and stuff. We have connections. But I needed to dig into that because I asked them. The last time Sonic would have called someone dad would have been pre-reboot Archie Sonic about Jules the Hedgehog, which was his biological father in those comics, because everyone was given biological parents. And then it rebooted, and that's the last time he would have called someone dad. But even verbally, never verbally has called someone dad. On with a voice acting.
Yeah. And I think the last time he had a biological family member was Sonic Underground, and that's a whole different ball.
Because Archie would have, because Jules would have been before that, because Sonic, he's had, people have pointed out, and I remember we made a master post at one point of all of Sonic's parents, biological or not. Sonic has had many more moms than he has had fathers, which is an interesting trend, because in Sonic Underground,
Steven Universe collecting moms.
Yeah. He had a mom and sibling.
Sorry, doing a backflip and so canonically doing a backflip and saying you were too slow is fatherless behavior.
Yeah.
That is true.
So Sonic is.
Well, don't you remember the Sonic Bible where his dad died?
Of course. God, I love that video.
Yeah,
that's so good.
And pretty much all of Unraveled I watch annually.
Well, I
I
think
watched that video
the
before I knew
funniest
anything
thing-
about Sonic, and it was amazing.
The funniest thing is no one told him that they did that in Sonic the Comic.
Yes,
That's
because
pretty
they
good.
don't have
British
they don't have
one.
the toxic waste in Sonic the Comic.
But
But
they did
Sonic
the
the Comic
basic-
was that was the British comic where Sega literally like didn't tell the writers anything ever. So they literally just pulled like the Kintabor thing from the Sonic Bible and did whatever they wanted.
Hell yeah.
They just ran with
And
that.
literally, I think the only information they got about Amy is I think they got one image of her, and they said she's coming out in a game with Metal Sonic. Here you go, like, and then they made her, and then they made her gay. So
Yeah.
queen behavior. But
we could.
but
I
okay,
hate to cut
Sonic
this
Movie
short.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do want to say Sonic Movie 2, my copium, and this might be. I don't even know if this is copium or a theory, but if it happens, I will like
There's
start.
a very thin line between copium
Yeah.
and theory sometimes.
But yeah, if this happens, I will start like
What
crying
if
in the
it wasn't
theater.
William driving William's car?
Is yeah. I've seen like people defense lawyering like, well, if someone else was driving William's car and he's not the midnight motorist, dude, it's over. But the
Please.
copium is in this movie. The actress who played Jessica Jones, Kristen Ritter, and that was like the Marvel TV series. So it's when Marvel is good. Kristen Ritter is in this movie. They have shown exactly one image of her, and she was nowhere in the trailers. She is like Jessica Jones. She's a celebrity.
Yeah.
And like they say she's a gun agent. We've seen her in uniform. But like like when the pay rate dropped, like everyone was it's like, yeah, the huge gender pay gap, like, yeah, that's a thing. But it was interesting to me that she was listed among the top actors and we've seen nothing of her.
Yeah.
I think she's gonna be in the movie, and at the end, we're gonna find out she was Rouge the whole time.
Or
'Cause
something.
I
That'd
think
be crazy.
It's gonna be like an opposite. You know, in Sonic Adventure, when Shadow goes up to Rouge and is like, "Rouge to the Bat, you're actually like a gun agent." I think he's gonna be like, "Gun agent, you're actually Rouge to the Bat." And she's
That'd
gonna
be
be
funny.
like,
or they
"They
that
didn't want to
image was
animate me for
taken-
so
or
half
that
the
image
movie."
was, or that image was taken to throw us off is the other idea there. Which I don't know if they'd go through that effort, but
They
I
go
don't know,
that
maybe.
far.
They
They want to sell plushies. If they were gonna have Rouge in all the movie, they would have dropped her by now.
Her name is listed as Agent Rockwell, which could mean two things: A, Rouge because Rockwell, there's rocks there. B, if she's not Rouge, she is a lead up to Rouge, and if she could be Agent Topaz from Sonic X, who was, if you remember, Sonic X was Rouge's gun agent girlfriend.
Rouge had a human girlfriend before Sonic did.
Yeah, I could see.
Well, yeah, that's peak.
If she's not Rouge, I could see her being Agent Topaz as well.
I could see that.
Well,
we'll see.
My copium is because Rouge is like just having her in Sonic, not in Sonic Adventure 2, is a weird decision, and specifically because even like again, because I read a lot of interviews after Sonic Movie 2 dropped. They were talking. They're like, we want to add Rouge in. Like
after Sonic 1, they were like, we want to add Rouge in.
It's interesting. She's not there apparently.
About
Yeah.
is if she's not because of how much they were like, we want to add Rouge. If she's not there, it's a studio decision. Because
if she's not there, it's a studio decision, and I could see her in 4 if it's that Metal Sonic plotline too. But it would be weird to not have her here.
Because here's the thing about Rouge: is as Sonic fans, most Sonic fans who are normal treat her normal, and they treat her like and I've said Rouge is actually a really good character to show, like 95% of the time, completely desexualized. Other than the boob physics in Sonic Adventure 2, which I don't think they ever repeated. The camera, the characters, the story, the script, nothing sexualizes her in any way. She's just there,
attractive,
and she
but they're not like, no one's ever treating her as an object. There's like no
there's
focus camera shots on her specifically.
And there's no as well as I said about like the camera never focuses on certain. Probably the worst it would ever have gotten would maybe in Archie, but I'm not sure because every woman was sexualized in pre-boot Archie, so that one isn't.
Thanks, Ken Penders.
Yeah, but
we love you, Ken Penders.
Rouge is
my mortal enemy.
Rouge is a really good component of how to do, because even like I was watching I was watching someone play the most recent Resident Evil remake, the RE4 remake, and like that the girl character. Oh, what is her name? She's really close. But then like one shot, it's just like showing her ass the whole time. And I'm like,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
you were so close to having a Rouge the Bat. And when I remember I jokingly was like, Catwoman wants what Rouge the Bat has. And what I meant by that was being able to like have their tits out and not be sexualized by anything in the story. And part of that is I feel like part of that is Rouge is listed as 18, and it's weird. In Sonic Adventure 2, they say she's 18. In Heroes, they say she's 17, and in the next game, they say she's 18 again. So I think for one of those, she was lying.
Yeah.
My first thought is
Rouge is older than all of us. Rouge is ageless.
Yeah.
She and
She's
Big the
a
Cat are
bat.
older.
Here's the thing,
Her and Big the Cat are older than time itself.
as a Sonic fan and as a cough woman who notices a lot of this stuff, I know that. It's one of those things where I know that, and you know that. Most Sonic fans, except for like freaks, treat her normal.
Yeah.
Even if they do like her physically, which a lot of like lesbians in the Sonic fandom do, they're lesbians, so they're treating her normal. But an outsider's
Parents might not.
perspective has a different view on it. And I could see a bunch of old men in Paramount execs going, well, we don't want the girl with her tits out.
Yeah, I could see
I
that.
could see the writers understanding what she's about, and she's actually pretty important for like helping kids understand that, hey, people can just walk around with some cleavage and they're normal, you know, like you don't have to stare at them.
Also, she's awesome.
Also, she's
True.
awesome.
She's awesome, and I hate to cut this off. I had to go like 10 minutes ago. Like, I gotta go.
Oh,
is there
no.
anything coming out? Is there anything coming out soon for you guys that you wanted to shout out real quick?
We're working on the Vanessa video. We'll probably take another 300 years.
Well, that's on you, because you're the one writing the script.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
But-
I keep forgetting to shout this out. I have a TeePublic, and I have a I don't remember what it's called, but it's linked in one of the links on my YouTube. It's a big cartel where I'm selling because I liked the Mimic stuff. The Mimic now
Blogs.
because I'm panicked, I can't remember words. Because I like the Mimic stingers. They were really written like slashers, so I made 3 different classic slasher poster designs that I digitally painted. And have those on Big Cartel. I don't think anyone's bought them yet, but they're there. I think they're
Make sure to shoot me that link so I can put it in the description.
yeah, okay. I can grab those.
Thank you for having us. This was so
Yeah.
cool.
No, thank you all for coming on. I would love to talk more about Sonic, but I really, really do have to go.
Yeah,
we get it.
But thank you all so much for hanging out. Once again, their links will be in the description. Go check them out. But thank you for I forgot my outro. Thank you for watching the Freddy Fazbear Pizza Podcast, where the pizza abilities are endless. We hope to enjoy your future patronage. Bye-bye for now.